Hello and welcome to Motivated Learning, presented by Visual Learning Solutions. I'm your host, Buddy Broyles. Motivated Learning is a program created for the education and learning design community to raise awareness about the people and the reason for quality professional educational training. I'm excited to continue Season 2, which is available both here on LinkedIn and on Facebook on Visual Learning Solutions pages. I'm also thrilled to welcome Lisa Spinelli. Lisa is a senior content manager at ATD. She's also a career coach, host of the Accidental Trainer podcast, and the main author and editor of the book, Teachers to Trainers. Lisa, how are you today?
Great, buddy. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, it's great to see you. So let's start off by, if you will, tell us a little bit about you and your history.
Okay, well, we're going to keep the history short because I feel like it's definitely becoming a longer history every year. I came to the States when I was like 17, 18, got into journalism when I was about 26 and was doing that for a while till I married an Air Force officer and went into kind of content management and wound up finding a great opportunity here at ATD. I was looking at getting more into career development and career coaching. So I kind of was able to marry the two loves of career development and content and find a great position here as a senior content manager. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Well, excellent. Well, so as your position at ATD, you're at a national level. You're seeing, I would say, from where you are, you're seeing a lot of what's going on nationally and internationally. Tell me a little bit about some trends that you are seeing for those in career transition today in the learning and development field. What are you witnessing?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more people interested in gig work and freelancing. And this goes across like not just talent development, but like all over the place, right? People are really interested more in making their own schedules, remote work, being able to really cultivate and design that lifestyle that they have actually always wanted or maybe didn't realize they really wanted or needed, but now they're having the opportunity to kind of design their everyday more and more. So we're seeing a lot more, of course, of remote and hybrid working. We're also seeing a lot of people moving into that freelancing and consulting realm. And we're seeing people really demanding a lot more from their place of employment if they do choose to stay. But that company loyalty is kind of getting lost in the mix with everything that's happening and people's repositioning of priorities in their life.
That's interesting because if company loyalty is changing, it's almost like they're loyal to themselves and their craft instead of, if it's a gig economy, they want to be the best at what they do. And so that transitions to any employment. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely. And people are definitely looking at how do I not go back for a degree necessarily, although there are a lot of people that are going back to do that now, especially since there's all these online options that weren't there before at institutions. But they're also looking at doing those LinkedIn Learning and those Coursera courses where they can maybe up their skills in one area so they can kind of build themselves as more of an expert in that field.
So let's talk about that. So people looking for a new job in talent development, what should they do to get started? You mentioned Coursera and LinkedIn Learning. What are the resources someone who's transitioning possibly from teaching or just outside of our industry entirely? Walk us through what's possible for them now.
Yeah, sure. So there's so many great ways to transition into training. So of course, I'm going to say you should get in touch with ATD or take one of the courses or visit one of the chapters. The chapters are fully virtual or volunteer based. So all of those people that you're going to meet are really enthusiastic about their field. And so they can really give you some really great tips and provide some mentorship. And I think that is definitely one of the ways to go is to find somebody in the field who can mentor you and guide you along your process. Of course, there's probably a couple skills that you might be missing, even if you're used to doing training and education and talking in front of a bunch of people, facilitation. You might not have some of those technical skills that you might need, some of those Adobe products that you might need under your belt to get hired at a job or for a gig. So those are some things that you might be looking at. Definitely networking and developing your personal brand online. Of course, LinkedIn is the go-to spot for trainers and talent development professionals to kind of let everybody know that they're out there and that they're interested in work and what they know, and letting out their thought leadership, and then providing, podcast interviews or starting a podcast yourself. I mean, that's been a really large way that I've seen a lot of talent development professionals get out there.
Agreed. I've consumed quite a bit myself. And there's a lot available on LinkedIn, people like myself and you promoting our podcast, promoting our materials. Have you noticed anything trending, say, from like an apprenticeship standpoint, where people can find a mentor and learn from them? Is there something like that going on within or outside of ATD?
There was a lot of that happening right before the pandemic hit. There was a lot of people going back and doing kind of reverse internships, and possibly even apprenticeships. Somebody just asked me about this yesterday in one of my coaching conversations. So it's funny that you brought that up. But right now, people are still kind of hesitant to get back into that person-to-person workforce. So I'm not really seeing that as a huge opportunity for the next few months, but that is something that was happening before COVID hit.
Yeah, I have witnessed that with some creative firms that we work with, where they've started apprenticeship programs. That way they can bring people up to speed quicker and identify talent, relatively quickly. So let's talk about talent for a bit. You've done quite a bit of work with the U.S. military. Talk to me about your work with service members.
Sure. So I actually wish I could do more of it. I'm actually trying to put together something again here soon, but we had a few of USO Pathfinders backed workshops, transition workshops called Troops to Trainers that I started here at ATD with the USO Pathfinders group, which they're kind of like the career transitioning group with the USO that are on a number of installations, military bases in America and possibly internationally. So we were providing them information about how to move into talent development and training and instructional design positions, and what it was like to transition out of the military itself. So finding some local veterans who had made the transition themselves into leadership development or instructional design or training or those different coaching roles, and letting the service members know what it really is like when you're trying to find a job as a veteran and when you should get started and those important pieces. And then I talked to them about ATD and about training and talent development in general. So I really love that work because my husband was in the Air Force, my dad was in the Army. My dad worked in the government for pretty much his whole adult life, and my husband too. So have a strong connection to that community.
Terrific. That's helping service members, especially as the downturn for actions overseas. Where we actually have some relationships with local organizations, and one of our recent hires is a former service member. So I think there's lots of opportunity there for everybody. So let's talk about, you mentioned, your passion for doing that work. In a greater sense, what motivates you to serve your customers, the industry, the ATD, and so on? I mean, kind of what are your personal mantras and things that keep you going?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I have a lot of personal mantras, but I definitely have enough children that motivate me. And I have 3 girls, my husband, who always, bring a lot of motivation to my life. I'd like to show my girls that it is possible to have a career that you love and still have time for them and doing, kind of the best of both worlds. It's a juggle, I'm not going to say I don't wake up and scream at somebody to put their socks on 30,000 times, but I do find a lot of motivation in my family and in my husband relationship family. Yeah.
Terrific. That's a great place to start, is the people that you start your day with are part of your motivation. So real quick, if people looking forward, if people want to continue this conversation with you, let's talk about the best ways to find you.
Sure. So LinkedIn is probably the best way to find me. Also, I'm sort of active on Twitter. You can always email me if you'd like, but you can always find me also on the Accidental Trainer podcast as well.
Terrific, terrific. Any final thoughts or comments or advice for people? I really like that you plugged ATD. I agree. The Dallas chapter that we're part of and sponsor some of their events is very active and engaged, and a terrific network of resources, especially for new people and people who are 30 years into their career. Talk to me about advice for people transitioning or wanting to better themselves. What advice do you have?
Yeah, I think a lot of people miss out on the idea. So a lot of people find just, jobs and they start to match their skills, right? And I think that a lot of people are not maybe taking a step back, taking a deep breath, figuring out what it is about themselves that really they enjoy doing every day. And that doesn't even have to be necessarily what you're doing every day in your job. It could be, like I told somebody when I had a coach, that I really like to talk to people all the time. So what did that translate into for me? That translated into doing podcasts, doing more career coaching and that sort of stuff. And then marrying that with some of the skills that I already had. So I think that's a big place to start. And also finding a company that you actually enjoy the culture at. You have to do a good deep dive. So if people are looking to transition right now, especially right now, if you don't know if that company is offering a remote position and you're all about remote work, and then they're going to call you in 3 months, you better know that before you sign on for that job. And you better know all of the leaders that you're going to be working under, what they're like, if that's really going to jive with you, because we know from pre-COVID times that bosses were the number one reason why people were leaving their jobs, being unhappy with their boss. So you want to make sure that you know what your boss's leadership style is like, and that takes some deep diving into LinkedIn and informational interviews and reaching out to places like ATD and ATD chapters. You can find out from other trainers and instructional designers and learning professionals what companies actually value their learning and development departments. So that's another thing that you definitely want to look into. So those are some tips for your audience.
That's terrific. And I really appreciate what you said toward the end there, is because what I have found with our customers and the people we work with is now more than ever, because hiring is really on the uptick at this point, the HR teams, the training teams, they're actually getting a better look from higher level management versus historically, like marketing and sales got bigger budgets. Now the training teams, they're being recognized as getting people in properly trained from the ground up matters now more than ever, especially because people are willing to leave the gig economy. They're willing to hop somewhere else. So if they're not invested in or feel like they're valued, they'll leave. So that's what we're witnessing now, is the training is taken a lot more seriously now.
Yes, definitely. And within organizations, if you're in an organization, really diving into that career development, if you're in charge of that, like, you should be looking at how you can develop those leaders or those high potential employees. And if you are one of those employees, speak up for yourself and go out there and tell that manager, tell that supervisor, or even above them, like, hey, look, this is my laundry list of accomplishments here. This is what I can do. And you could even create your own role within the organization. That is always an opportunity if you find a way to show how that's going to improve the revenue or improve the ROI. You can definitely wind up doing that as well. So those are great points, buddy.
Thank you. Well, Lisa, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. And for the rest of you, please reach out if you have any questions about this show using the social media available on your screen. You can reach us, of course, on Facebook. LinkedIn is preferred. Feel free to give us a call or just email us at any time. We provide services such as instructional design, e-learning, instructional course development, and so much more, including video production, both here in our studio or out in the field at your location or corporate events center. Also, if you wish to host a similar show just like this one, we can help you, from developing the concept to set and show design, along with full production and marketing of your product. Thank you again for watching, and we hope you will tune in or even consider joining me as a guest on a future program. Please have a wonderful day.